Hi everyone, it's Tracy here from Art Fibre Stitch. We're looking at lines today. These dotted lines, a running stitch if you will. I'm still working on this tree picture. Remember how we put those Lutrador hills in the background? And we did some layering. That was in the previous video, but I've decided to call this one a landscape in running stitch because that's what I'm going to work on in this episode. You can see I'm looking at the original contours that I had started to put in. I thought that this blue here could easily come down here, and that those contours there, that could be a river or something flowing down from that hill, but it's also bringing in this lovely blue. It's shiny like that. It's virtually a perfect match, and we could have it rolling down that hill, as if you're picking up bits of it here, there, and everywhere. But that's, it'll depend on the colour that we use, and we'll just build it as we go. So I'm just using 2 threads here. I'm just separating them out, and then I'm going to tie a knot in one end and put the 2 threads through the eye of a needle. So as long as it threads through the needle, I'm happy. As long as it's pointy enough on the end to go through the fabric, I'm also happy. And I don't get really wound up about what size it is. But I'll come up from underneath with the knot in, and then I'll start to put my lines in. Well, I've already done some in a brownie colour, so that it could have been anything. I could have been marking out something completely different, a path. I just wanted it to lead down to our bushes in the foreground. And because I'm making these blue lines now, well, that's going to suggest a river forming, maybe lots of little rivulets, little streams joining together there and then fanning out as they come to the foreground. But that's all in the eye of the beholder. You can imagine it is what you like. And that's what I like to do. I like to do something that obviously isn't a photo. It's nowhere near, but it's my interpretation of a landscape. And I like to leave it a little bit up to the imagination. Now, I wanted to concentrate on running stitch because such a valuable stitch. It's our first stitch. It's the original stitch. It's used for so much, but I like using it in fabric art. I think it's underrated, really. Yes, you can do all kinds of fancy stitches, but you can suggest some things with this, and that's what we're going to have a go at here. And like I was saying, it can relate to colours. We're doing the contours of the land, so the colour blue, for example, here is making us think of water. And we're also using finer thread or thicker thread, and all of that can work to our advantage. See here, this is the start of it here. I'm finding it doesn't really show up as much as I want, but it's early days yet, and I do like to start off very slowly and with something that you're not going to see too much of. There, it's starting to get a little darker. Now, with the Lutrador that we hand painted, I've cut some other bits out, and I thought, well, I could put that in. I can easily pop that in somewhere, and it could be a big rock, and do the same thing. I'm probably not going to bother in this one, but just to show you that those bits that we have left over of what we've already done, they're quite useful as well. But whilst I'm in this vicinity, I'm going to look out a few browns, and I'm using something that's more like a pearl cotton, that's darker, just to show you that I'm using it as well on the tree. I'm not going to forget my tree. I'll keep going to it when I'm in the area. I've got brown there as well, you can see. And doesn't our Tyvek bark look great? See, that's the same. Bit of running stitch or single stitches, maybe sometimes a little bit random, but it's really, we're just sticking with that at the moment. And it looks quite good. I frayed some black linen there and put that in. And I'm just using that same stitch to attach my Tyvek as I'm passing. And I'll go back and add more bits to it later. But here and here, you can see how well it works. But the background is still looking a little bit light colored. I can't really see that luchador pale salmony pink color. I can't really see it very well. The one that's underneath the blue hills in the background. So I'm just going to start adding some deeper colors here and pick out those contours again. Can you see that I've also added a few French knots there? Just because I wanted to suggest it was down the bottom of one hill, you know, in the valleys, and you might get some trees. So I think French knots work well for trees. I'm not going to do very much, but just to tell you what those bits are. And here I'm just continuing doing the contours of this hill, you know, following the shape that I think it is. So it's doing a rounded kind of shape here, and that will get smaller as I go up. And I'll bring in different colors as well. The one I'm using at the moment, it's not really doing a lot. And like I say, I like to start like that whilst I'm deciding. I mean, eventually I do end up going way too bright, and then I have to knock it back a bit or introduce other colors. But it's all part of the experimentation, and I don't mind that kind of thing at all. Whilst we're stitching here, I'll just mention that I always like to, you know, do one or do a few stitches together, like a run of stitches. But whatever I do, I tend to work from right to left because I'm a right-hander. And then I also just move the work around if I need to change direction, rather than getting myself tied in knots trying to be right to left. I just turn the fabric. See? And then go back the other way. I also like to use a thread till it's finished. So I'll find places that I can put it. And I like to not travel too far underneath with my thread. So I'll finish somewhere where I know I can head back from. That's the idea anyway. And when I finish with one colour or one thread, I go through to the back, a couple of stitches on top of each other, and that's good enough to be a knot. I'll knot it off. And then trim your ends. Alright, more colour. Now I'm going to get some threads that I actually dyed myself, and it's really good fun to do that. You get all different combinations that are unique for you. So I've got some purpley pink ones there, they can go in the hills. I've got some salmony brown, kind of golden ones, and they'll also find a little spot there. And whatever I put in there, how I do my stitches and what colors I choose to use, you know, that all makes the picture. That all makes those hills and the shaded bits and the highlighted bits. And then we can start to imagine it all much better. We can already see those hills in the background so much better. So these thicker threads should really work in well. Now, I certainly didn't plan to do this, but I got sidetracked. That's what I do. Sometimes I'll think, oh yeah, okay, I'll try that. And what I'm doing is experimenting. I encourage everybody to experiment and see what you can come up with. But it doesn't matter if it's not perfect, because I'm learning something myself, what works well, and then maybe I'll do it better in the next one. Doesn't matter. And using this big picture, I mean, I know it's supposed to be a tree, but I just got sidetracked into the background. And I think it works well. I'm going to be coming back to the tree and working on those top leaves in the next video. But just have a look at this. You can see all of the threads. I've used some to blend it in. I've used some as highlights. But all in all, I think it's quite good. I like it. So that's it. My landscape done with running stitch. Why don't you have a go yourself? I really do hope you enjoyed that, and watch me next time when we get back to this tree and hopefully finish it off. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you have, and I'll see you next time. If you feel you're getting something out of this video, you can always leave a donation as well. Thanks again.